Sexual intimacy, communication, and monogamy. Sexual intimacy, intercourse in particular, is a form of communication. It is a form that covers more than your other forms cover. It includes information that you cannot attain or share in any other way. Monogamy is an institution put in place by what you call the patriarchy. As I have spoken of above, the prevalent form of marriage on your planet is designed to control the inheritance of property through male lines. Monogamy, as a social rule and expectation, is designed to support that cultural agenda by ensuring that a man knows with certainty who his children are. It is time for you to come out of the fearing that monogamy is your only option. You are beings that communicate with your bodies and through them. As you come to know yourselves more as energetic beings having physical lives, a key component in your reconnection to your true nature is the forms of communication you are willing and able to traffic in. Some of you are experiencing heightened intuition. Some are communicating with animals and other beings in new ways. Communication on all levels is important for your evolution now, and it is time for you to open up all of your communication channels. Many of you have absorbed the cultural teaching that monogamy is your best option if you are to fit into society. Observe the social habits that are applied to people who do not choose monogamy, especially women. If women were not shamed into fearing being seen or known to be something other than monogamous, the cultural agenda to do with controlling the inheritance of property through male lines would be impossible. For this system to work, as many women as possible must come to believe that monogamy is the right way to live lives as sexual beings. It is time for you to remember all of the ways you have available to communicate, to learn. Sexual intercourse is a route to learning what you cannot think, explain, envision, plan, or say. The information exchanged is energetic information and emotional information. Your concept of karma is shifting, and this is good. Some of the information you receive in sharing during sexual intercourse concerns your true nature as spiritual beings, as divine beings, and some of it concerns your karmic journey. When you are deeply attracted to another human and feel sexual desire, one of the modes in which this happens is so that you might exchange energetic information of which you are in no way conscious. Your cultural conditioning has attached much judgment to your experience and expression of sexual attraction, and it is time for you to choose to leave that conditioning behind. It will take time. Your first task is to evaluate your conscious and unconscious attitudes towards sexual attraction and sexual expression and behavior. Choose to become aware of your responses to others and where those responses were generated. If you cannot answer why you are attracted to another person, it is highly likely that the imperative you are feeling has much to do with exchanging energetic and/or karmic information. As you come out of these old, limiting beliefs about who you really are and what your sexuality and sexual expression are, I invite you to be entirely conscious of not just yourself as a sexual being, but also those you choose to participate in sexual communication with. Check the vibration of the situation. Earlier I said that there are inexplicable attractions you experience to others, and while this is certainly true, I want you to be sure that you are not attracted to some person in order to meet an unmet need from your past. I want you to be sure that you are taking care of yourself energetically and emotionally, and that you are operating in the present tense with regards to your sexual self. Your cultural conditioning has seeded much destructive behavior and many distorted attitudes about your true nature. Most of you are divorced from your true selves as you have attempted to fit into social constructs to be acceptable and to survive socially, emotionally, and economically. All natural expression that is suppressed will in time come out as distortion. This is simply how things work. It is never true that you can hide a part of you from shame and that it will go away. Such parts of you that seem worthy of shaming and attempts to leave them behind will come out eventually in distortion. So I invite you to gain consciousness of all parts of yourself that have been shamed and suppressed, and to get to know them in conscious ways. Your natural sexual self is just one category of these parts of you. It is time that you reconnect to your true nature and leave behind all attitudes you have picked up in the last few thousand years that shame your natural expression. Shame is a powerful tool to keep you in fear that you are doing or have done something wrong. Cultural teachings have attempted, and in many ways just about all but succeeded, in seducing you not just to betray your true nature as divine, energetic beings, but also to police yourself when it comes up again later. You cannot truly deny who you are. You cannot permanently divorce yourself from who you are. Given the changes occurring in your dimension now that are affecting your conception and experience of self, of who you really are, you are being invited to reconnect with any parts of you that have been, for any reason, forgotten or left behind. If you have cut yourself off from a connection to spirit, you are being nudged to reconnect. If you have dampened your creativity in any way, you are being inspired to move beyond your blocks in order to express yourself again. It is the same with your sexuality. If you have absorbed any of the cultural imperative to shame yourself for your natural way of experiencing and expressing yourself as a sexual being, you are no doubt finding it is time for you to figure out the right way to heal the blocks and pain from the past and move into a future in which you are truly all of yourself, all of who you really are. Sexual abuse and trauma. For those of you who have attempted to shut yourself off from your sexuality due to past trauma, you are now being invited in various ways to move out of a state of victimhood and deal with your trauma in realistic healing ways. You do not have to take the universe up on this invitation, but you are nonetheless, each of you, being invited to change your mind about why sexual trauma has happened to you. All experiences you have had have fit with your soul's journey. You have created each of them. You did not set out to create trauma, however. The natural mindset from within trauma is experiencing life or a particular set of life experiences through the lens of believing that someone did something to you. For those of you living through that lens, your path to fully inhabiting your divine essence and expressing yourself fully as a divine, powerful, creative being will require you to revisit the history of those experiences in your psyche and energy field and choose to see them through a different lens. This will require that you undergo a process of involving several steps. The first is to see with clarity and understand why you have created the experiences you have created. Once you see how your experiences fit into the overall journey of your soul, you can accept responsibility for your part in them. Others are co-responsible with you, yet these experiences have happened because you needed to learn certain lessons about will, power, openness, equality, fairness, sexuality, trust, and surrender, or other related themes. Those with whom you have co-created traumatic experiences have their own lessons at the soul level served by experiencing with you. Together you have learned about a human dynamic critical for each of you to learn. Once you recognize this truth, once you accept the fact of this co-creation and that your souls enlisted each other to experience that event together, it becomes possible for you to thank them for their participation in your journey. It is not always true that each party involved in sexual trauma can do this. This is because each of you learns at different speeds and has different sets of experiences to work through in order to see the truth of yourselves and your experiences. It is normal that you do not do this at the same speed, but it is imperative that you do it when you are feeling ready to move beyond a state of victimhood, a state of perceiving that someone else has done something to you. When you are able to have gratitude for another's participation in your journey in this way, you are no longer a victim. You begin to inhabit yourself consciously as the divine, powerful being that you are. Sexual trauma on your planet is widespread. To some of you, it can seem an insurmountable problem. The statistics you often hear repeated about how many women and girls are raped and abused do not scratch the surface of the extent of the issue because they are looking at only portions of the human population. Where the eyes of your mass media are not yet ever present and open, the situation can be more dramatic in terms of numbers and the effects on social cohesion and individual and social health. Distortion of your natural sexuality is sourced in repression. I'm inviting you to come to know yourselves as sexual beings in your fullness so that you can end this suppression. Fully accepting all of who you are, really are, and then becoming willing to express it honestly is the only solution to this worldwide situation you are experiencing. The distortion is rooted in what you have been told your sexuality is for. You have been told it is for procreation, and that if you believe it is for anything else, there is something wrong with you, and you must ask your gods for forgiveness. If you understood the truth of your sexual nature, it is feared that your society would fall apart. You would understand that it is a natural and wonderful form of communication that can teach you who you are and allow you to support each other more fully in your journeys as souls having human experiences in physical bodies. A key to this distortion is that humans are no longer initiated into sexual maturity. You must fumble your way through learning about your bodies, chemistries, and emotions while being told at every turn that your natural ways of being are not good to experience. The cultural mind seeks at all times to limit your experience of your natural self because it knows it could not survive in its present state if you loved yourself and each other for being just who you are. There was a time on Earth when humans did initiate each other into sexual maturity. It was considered a sacred duty to teach a young man how to understand his nature and to approach the nature of a woman. This was a time that considered the earth the mother of you all, and each and every woman a representative of, a daughter of, that mother. Young men were taught to respect a woman in the same way that they were taught to respect their mother, the earth. All were taught that the energies that they feel in their bodies reflect the rhythms and the imperatives of nature. You see, the most important thing to these people during this era in your history was not that a man know precisely who his children are. The most important thing was for humans to experience themselves as they naturally are, which is to say part of nature and its cycles and rhythms. This was not a utopian time in which there was no violence and no distortion, but the distortion came as a result of particular individuals who did not, for some reason, resonate with these teachings. What you are living through now, and have been for several thousands of years, is a widespread, almost global distortion of your natural sexual selves. It affects all arenas of life. Many of you are noticing that your approaches to medicine are in need of an overhaul, and you seek alternative methods to care for yourselves. The prevailing model, you call it allopathic medicine, is based in a fundamental but willful misunderstanding of what the body is and does, and you are noticing on a wide scale the damage that it does. The more that you listen to your bodies and the more that you take their input as meaningful, the more you get closer to living in touch with the cycles and the rhythms of nature. The cultural distortion surrounding sexuality on your planet is in many ways acted out in the reasons and the methods you have decided are appropriate to employ to express yourself sexually. One area to look at is the molestation of children and incest, which I will cover below. Another is the widespread, often secret use of sexual pornography. Each occurs because of the distorted view of who you should be as a sexual being. The channel sometimes sees the situation regarding the distortion as too big to figure out how to address. He and many like him, however, continue to address it by coming into more natural communication with their natural sexual selves and seeking more authentic expression of those selves. He and others have taken in the truth I offer. You can heal this situation on your planet if you heal yourself. Responding to abuse with anger is natural, whether you are abused or close to someone who is abused or you witness abuse. Yet again, I challenge you to learn to see yourself, your lives, and the world through your spiritual eyes. Allow my perspective to show you how to evolve in your process as humans, reconnecting to your true natures as divine beings. Here is the truth. Nothing can happen to you without your consent. As you have experienced sexual abuse in its various forms, you may have adopted the stance of victim. You cannot imagine that you have given your consent to experience what you have experienced, yet you have. Your conscious personality fought. It did not give consent. But your soul asked to experience something, a theme that would teach you more about being on earth, more about being an energetic being, having a human experience, and the teaching took the form of that sexual abuse. The themes surrounding sexual abuse are varied. Some of you who have experienced this have at the soul level signed up for intense sexual experiences. Some have signed up to learn about trust and intimacy and how to say yes or no to the right or wrong sorts of people to have in your life. Some of you have requested that you learn more fully about revealing yourself and opening to another. Others have asked to learn about the expression of free will. Others have asked to learn about power and what it feels like to overpower others in some ways and to be overpowered by others in other ways. This topic is a difficult one for many of you, I understand. Yet my commitment is to supporting you in your evolution, and it is important that you gain a higher level of consciousness at this time about why you have experienced what you have experienced. Bear with me as I offer this information. Work to ground yourself and remain open to hearing what I am offering you here. Your evolution as a dynamic spiritual being, capable of and willing to create your world around you, your divine right, and the reason you incarnated on this plane in the first place, requires that you learn this. So I ask you to remain open and trust that this information is for your highest good. As I said earlier, whatever has been left out of your journey, or left behind for any reason, is what you have to deal with now. Regarding sexuality, for thousands of years, many humans have been living with social systems that seek to control sexual expression and redefine and control what is natural. If you are dealing with sexual abuse of any kind now, you are not dealing with it from this life alone. You are dealing with many lives of sexual violence. You are dealing with multiple lifetimes of trying to find the right expression of yourselves within a social context that does not allow it. You have struggled with your desires and urges and have been confused and misled about what is right to do about them, given the social laws and mores in place. A great many of you have been scarred emotionally and karmically by attempting to force yourself to reduce yourself to fit with those laws and mores. You have been taught to deny your true nature in any and all ways that it seeks to manifest itself. When you have not done so, when you have acted without restriction in lovely forms of natural human self-expression, you have been punished. It is time for you to learn to come out of all of this conditioning that seeks to limit who you know you are. I invite you to begin to dig deep within yourself and find the part of you that trusts that what you naturally are is good and should be expressed. The more that you come out of these old ways of mistrusting what you naturally are, your destination is into more and deeper self-trust, which is a form of self-love. The diminishment of the natural feminine. One of the greatest struggles taking place in the minds, hearts, and bodies of the inhabitants of Earth at present is in reconnecting with the natural feminine, the divine side of you that has been diminished for the last several thousand years. As you are, each of you, both masculine and feminine, living for thousands of years with one side of you supposed to be fine as it naturally is, and the other anything but fine the way it naturally is, there is a great amount of healing waiting for each and every one of you in this reconnection. When you have been born as a male human, you have had the choice to participate in a system that you at times feel is wrong and damaging, hurtful to women and to the earth. When you have chosen to participate in this system willingly at times, you have done so because you desire to succeed socially, and it is not clear to you how that might be accomplished if you stand up for the feminine and do not take the side of the culture shapers that have been intent on diminishing the feminine. When you have been born as a male human and choose not to participate in this system, you have found yourself on the fringe of society in one way or another. There have not been places for men who choose to honor the natural feminine in your societies for many thousands of years. Seth has been working on the story of the Greek mythological figure Dionysus and the Roman equivalent, Bacchus, for some time as an illustration of this. This figure is a god who is a priest of the goddess. In your ancient mythologies, this sort of figure is a prominent one, reflecting how one gender can support the other. There is evidence in the Greek ways of telling this story, yet by the time the Romans' mind was telling this story, this figure was debased into one who imbibes heavily and sponsors drunken revelry, in which people are needlessly hurt and killed. When men over the last several thousand years have found themselves identifying with this figure or a similar one as a supporter of the goddess, he has been made a joke or given a tough ultimatum to get on board with the prevailing agenda, or else. All men are carrying this damage in their energy fields, and it comes out as they learn about and understand themselves as sexual beings now. When you have been born as a female human and have chosen to participate in this system, It has often been because you perceive a need to have security and to be acceptable to the masculine influences that run your world. You have been directly or indirectly threatened in your various lives when born as a female human with abuse, being run out of town, shunned, raped, or killed if you chose not to submit to the social and family pressure to do what men and those working in the spirit of the male mind have expected you to do. In all of your lives, born as a female human, you have experienced pressure to remain quiet about the damage that submitting to the unhealthy aspects of this social system have caused you. You are all, both male and female, carrying in your bodies now the effects of suppressing your feelings about having experienced these situations. When you have been born as a female human and have chosen not to participate in this system, you have been threatened, abused, run out of town, shunned, raped, or killed. These cultures survive only when the natural feminine, which craves not to be controlled, is brought under control or failing that banished or eradicated. All who embody the natural feminine in its desire not to be controlled over the last several thousand years have experienced various forms of violence. A woman who demands an equal say in her marriage may receive this treatment. A woman who cares for her body the way her body requests and not the way a man or the male mindset tells her to may receive such treatment. A woman who has her own ideas and opinions and trusts her instincts will also draw this sort of treatment. The list of behaviors and attitudes that have drawn attempts to dominate, suppress, and diminish the natural feminine is too long to list. Yet each and every one of you knows exactly what I mean. You have been surrounded by it for a very long time and in a great many lives, and it has formed the backbone of much of your experience in all those lives over the last many thousand years. Energetically, you have taken all of this on deeply in your fields, both when you are born as male and when born as female, as well as when you have participated and when you have not. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that each and every one of you choose to come out of these damaging ways of being and approaching each other, your bodies, and the earth itself, again in healthy ways to step into a reconnection with the feminine as it naturally is. What you are carrying in your body is rage, grief, anger, sadness, desperation, and many other difficult emotions. With the speeding up of the shifts that are taking place on Earth now, that I refer to as the acceleration of the evolution of consciousness, you are being challenged to dig deep in your psyche and emotions and physical vehicles to see where you are carrying energetic and emotional wounding and debris from the past. You are being called to heal all of these things and more. In the context of this teaching concerning sexuality, I want you to come to understand that all these situations surrounding the diminishment of the feminine from your history, living as male and female humans from all along the Earth timeline, the last several thousand years are now affecting your conception of and relationship with your sexuality in very direct ways. What experiencing the need to heal these things looks like will be different for each of you because you have different histories, karma, wounding, and experiences in your various lives. Now you have explored the nature of sexuality, and the reality of the long-term diminishment of the feminine has been unique for each of you. Yet each and every one of you has work to do surrounding healing your long-term, many-life conception and relationship with your sexuality. Many of you carry shame about what you have done in the realm of exploring yourself openly as a sexual being. Many of you have self-hatred about what you have done to women, whether indirectly abusing them or in participating in social structures that aim to keep them down or guarantee that they are abused in some way. Many of you carry shame about using your sexuality, which you know deep inside yourself is a magnificent route to expressing love and your portion of the divine in order to gain, secure, or keep power and prestige. Many of you have had to resort to using your sexual natures to gain resources and position in order to survive and still carry the damaging self-judgment about those behaviors. Many of you have engaged in damaging treatment of both men and women that has hurt you as much as it has hurt the other person or people. I urge you to hear all of the messages that your body gives you at this time. It is time to do a great deal of healing, processing, and releasing in what is, in fact, a very brief duration of time. What you have been collecting for thousands of years in the form of grief, anger, regret, and other painful emotions may now constitute knots in your energy field that, if left unprocessed, unreleased, and unhealed, could eventually manifest as health issues within your physical body. Now, as the acceleration of the evolution of consciousness takes place, what goes with it is the acceleration of energy manifesting in the form of matter. Listen to what your body is telling you at all times, especially surrounding your sexual self. Hear what it has to say and commit to working through whatever knots you might be carrying. I do not say any of this to frighten you, but it is my intention to put your attention on the fact that what you have been experiencing for thousands of years is now attempting to come out into your consciousness. If you cannot hear these messages from yourself through your body and learn to address them, they will attempt to come into physical form. Your physical bodies cannot help but to conform to the dynamics of your energetic fields. Whatever intense emotions you have experienced in your various human lives all along the Earth timeline that you are still carrying are trying at this time more than ever to come into conscious awareness. Much physical suffering can be alleviated by choosing that these emotions come into conscious awareness. When humans manifest physical disease and illnesses, it is that the feelings and the beliefs about the events from and gained in the past are coming into manifest form. As you go through these unprecedented changes now, the acceleration of the evolution of consciousness that is bringing up all of your soul's other lives' emotions here and now for you to feel finally with conscious awareness, it is a tremendous amount to be dealing with. My intention is to support you in understanding the bird's eye view on how these situations manifest in your life, and with regards to the teaching about sexuality you are reading, you are ready to take all of this in and learn to deal with these emotions from the past that you have been carrying within your energy fields for all of these lives. One of the manifestations of this rich and complex sexual history in your bodies at this time is the prevalence and rising instances of infertility or inability to conceive and have a child. While the circumstances surrounding each woman's and man's history and soul journey are unique, there is an underlying truth all of them have in common. It is that the suppression of the natural feminine in all its forms cannot help but catch up to you as individuals and as a collective at some point. And that point is now, and the last couple of decades, as this phenomenon has been increasing in prevalence. You look to chemical reasons and emotional reasons and psychological reasons as to why this situation occurs, yet it is time to look at it from the standpoint of energy and recognize with open eyes that in your bodies you are carrying the effect of several thousand years of the diminishment of the feminine. This suppression of a woman's natural feminine self that craves not to be controlled affects all aspects of her creativity and vitality. Look to the energy center in your bodies that has to do with creativity and procreativity, and understand that this is the seat of all the many thousands of years of suppressing the natural feminine in order to ensure that a woman does not know her natural sexual self too much, or that if she does know it, she judges it as dangerous, because this is how the male mind conceives of her natural sexuality. For an individual to come back into balance with himself or herself as a sexual being, all of this history and his or her memories, attitudes, beliefs, doubts, and criticisms about what the natural feminine is and does needs to be dealt with. At the time that you are listening to this, you are yourself confronting within you in one way or another all of the history of learning about sexuality over your many lives. Perhaps you have been struggling with healing these parts of you in a culture and in environments that are not supportive of it. Perhaps you have had a nagging feeling that something is not right and your sexual self is not satisfactorily expressed. Perhaps it is true for you that you have not been conscious of these issues and the importance of healing them until hearing this text. I can assure you that healing is possible, even as you find yourself in environments that may seem intent on perpetuating the wounding and not supporting you in processing, releasing, and healing what you need to process, release, and heal. It is possible, and it is a major stage of your journey in becoming willing to inhabit yourself as a divine being who has come here to learn about love. Elsewhere, I have spoken of the incredible power of love, and that love is the answer to all of your problems. At this point, I confront you with the challenge to love yourself enough to commit to getting to the bottom of what you are carrying in your energetic field, and to heal, process, and release all that has happened to you surrounding your sexuality in your various lives. I invite you to forgive yourself for all you have chosen to experience as you progress along your journey of learning more about love and about yourself as a divine being. And I invite you to forgive all who have acted upon you in some way for which you are blaming them. All you have done and all they have done has fit with your respective journeys to remembering who you really are. Those who commit sexual violence. It is also important for me to speak about those who commit sexual violence. While those who are abused create the experience of being abused, those who abuse create the experience of being abusers. The themes those who sexually abuse others are learning about at the soul level are the same themes that those who are experiencing abuse are learning. Trust, intimacy, saying yes and no, fully revealing the self to another, and having power over others and feeling others are more powerful than the self is. They are the same themes. Many who experience one side of this situation are, in fact, in their various lives experiencing a variety of expressions of it. Rapists are raped, abusers are abused. Nothing here is clear-cut. Just as nothing happens to you without your energetic consent, it is true that you do nothing without making a choice. When one brings violence in any form to others, it has an energetic or emotional impact upon that person, and even if in the relatively brief term of your human lives you do not experience or see the effects of what you consider justice, the energetic imprint carries over into that soul's other lives. In other words, you are dealing with your karma of bringing violence to others as you live your multiple lives, just as you are dealing with your karma of having been acted upon by others in ways you have experienced as violence. As with all trauma you are carrying from your past, there is a route to healing and releasing it. If you are to embrace your true nature as divine beings, you must go through a process to become grateful to all those who have taught you something. All of the people who stand out in your life have agreed to be teachers for you in one way or another, including those who have hurt you. At the soul level, the only way a karmic contract can come into being is because the two beings love each other deeply, recognizing each other as portions of the divine, seeking to learn what it means to live in this dimension on this kind of planet in your kinds of bodies. Souls agree to become teachers because of love, and the lessons are played out as they do because of the love between souls. Look at those who have hurt you in the most significant ways. Look at them as teachers for you in your unfolding journey to remember more about your true nature as a divine being, creating the world around you as you go, learning what it means to be on this plane after having forgotten your true natures for a time. If you are to remember your divinity in its fullness, you must thank all of those who have hurt you. Again, I know this can be difficult to hear, but you are ready to turn a corner from perceiving yourself as a victim to perceiving yourself as the creator of your entire life and all your experiences in this life and all your other lives. Your soul exists outside of space-time. The particular dimension in which your planet exists, from the perspective of soul, there is no time. And what you are experiencing in all of your human lives along the entire Earth's time-space timeline is happening within you right now. All wounding that you are dealing with now covers all of your human lives and is experienced by you as present in the now. Your passions, fears, dilemmas, joys, and intentions, and the gifts you are as a human, striving to develop and offer the rest of creation, are in common to all of your lives. As you are now confronted with healing and releasing whatever trauma you might be carrying in your psyche and energetic field, you are accessing trauma you have experienced in other lives. Look to feelings you have now that either have no known cause or are deep and significant out of all proportion to any of your current or recent life experiences. Look to where you respond to situations and relationship dynamics out of proportion to what you see right in front of you, and you will have indications of what sort of dynamics you have experienced in other lives as traumatic. It is not necessary to know the details of each and every situation that you have experienced as traumatic in order to deal and release it. You do not need to know the specifics in order to move beyond your past traumas. Look at the themes you are feeling as present for you now and resolve to transform your experience of them one by one. Doing this in the present will affect your soul and all of your other human lives. You do not need to learn about how all of your human lives are related to and affect your soul. But if you desire to learn this, I encourage you to do so. What you need to know to heal your wounding from the past is that by seeing with clarity why you have created your experiences, accepting co-responsibility for them, and expressing gratitude for those who have participated in your journey as teachers, you can move beyond your trauma and wounding. This is entirely in your power to do. I ask you to answer yourself honestly and without judgment, simply recognizing the truth of where you are in your healing process. If you are still angry, okay, then heal your anger. If you are not sure how to take responsibility for all that has happened to you, in particular certain events, okay. I invite you to keep reading this while remaining open to what I have come through to offer you today. There is no timeline. No one is keeping score and monitoring your progress, unless you are. It is up to you to accept unconditionally where you are in your healing process. Just as you have asked certain teachers to support you in your evolution by participating with you in painful dynamics, you have asked others to support you by helping you heal. Such people are present in your life now. I invite you to become aware of what it is that you are carrying from the past. Then you can ascertain clearly and with discernment who it is that is in your life to support you in perpetuating wounding scenarios. Who has agreed to support your evolution and fulfill your request to learn, and who is not? It is important that you learn to respond to the situation in front of you, to become present to what is really going on in front of you, and not respond as if it were a situation from your past. Learn to choose to be aware of who is available to teach you what. Thank all of those who are teaching you and who have ever taught you, and then do what it takes to release the ones who have agreed to help you learn through trauma, abuse, and pain. Choose to move forward with those who can support you in ways that work for you, that do not perpetuate trauma and pain. Monogamy. Returning to monogamy, it is a cultural control mechanism designed to achieve two goals: to control the inheritance of property through male lines, and to prevent you as a collective from knowing yourselves outside the definitions of who you are that are imposed on you at the social and cultural levels. If you were free to know yourselves as the beings that you are, you would not limit your communication with other beings. And you would, without a doubt, learn more about yourself and life and your true nature without subjecting yourself to the control-oriented dynamics of those who have been shaping life on your planet for thousands of years. And yet that is not a long time, and you can never truly forget who you really are. It will take many of you time to decondition from the cultural teachings about what sexual intimacy is and is for, in order for you to return to knowing yourselves fully in your true nature. For some of you, monogamy will no longer work. Those who have been in touch with their true natures will recognize that it has never been healthy for you. However, there is a fear that if certain basic cultural mores are destroyed, that society will be destroyed with them, and the institution of marriage, with its accompanying a component of monogamy, is one of these. It is time for you to know yourselves as you really are, and as you go about that process of unfolding into a reconnection with yourselves as divine beings, your societies must change. You must take back the control of yourselves and your consciousness that you have surrendered to your social mores during the time of the dominance of the patriarchal thought, and chose to live in ways that support you in health on all levels, and that reflect and allow you to express yourself as you really are. Coming out of the social constriction that is your version of marriage and its accompanying monogamy, your task is to connect deeply with your true energetic nature, with yourself as an energetic being. Choose to objectively see what it is that you want and need, and choose to see yourself directly, removing from in front of your eyes the lens of the patriarchal conditioning that you have adopted. Many of you will find aspects of yourself that you do not know how to integrate into your outward life. You will find corners of your sexuality, for example, that contain desires and needs that do not fit with who you think you are, or who you have been told to be. You will find that you are interested in any number and manner of sexual experiences and dynamics that are socially unacceptable. Who will have the final say on what your nature is? Who will get to decide on what is healthy for you? It is your task to love yourself as the entire being that you are. It is time that you learn that these deep truths about yourself and choose to honor them at all costs instead of denying them at all costs to ensure that you are, become, or remain socially acceptable. As you do this, you will encounter many people who are not prepared or willing to do this. You must leave them to their experience and not absorb their fear of what you are saying or offering about who you really are. You must choose to have your experience and leave others to theirs. If you are choosing to know all parts of yourself fully and are being honest about that and encounter others whom you inspire discomfort or fear, know that they have asked you to teach them something important about themselves by triggering their fears. Do not absorb their fear or give that fear power over you. This is how you have gotten yourselves disconnected from your true sexual selves and expression in the first place. If you are honest about yourself and your desires and needs on all levels, you are sure to repel certain others. Let this happen. Understand that the collective on the planet at this time is also working to understand its true nature. This means that individuals are striving to learn the right ways and measures of self-expression, including sexuality. Great teachings are waiting for your planet once individuals choose to embody themselves as they naturally are and choose to cease shaming any and all parts of themselves. While many are doing this, many more must as well. It must become the direction of the collective, not the reality of a small number of holdouts or rebels who appear simply to be difficult or out of touch with how the world works. It is these people who are holding the seed of what the vast majority of you will, over the next few hundred years, relearn directly for yourself. Sexual healing. Many of you are deeply concerned about the future of your planet. There is a key to the health of your planet that you might not have previously seen. As your energy fields and bodies are extensions of those of the planet, of Gaia herself, your experiences of your body is linked to her experience of hers. How you treat your bodies is how you treat the earth. As your mother, she will love you no matter what you choose. But you are invited during these important shifts in consciousness and identity that are unfolding on your planet now to learn more about loving yourselves in better and better ways, and in more ways that reflect who you know you are, including to care for yourself in all the ways that no one else has cared for you. As I am discussing your sexuality today, how you experience your body as a sexual being has much to do with how you experience your body. In the way that you are naturally built and wired as an energetic being, we cannot talk about one without the other. And as I have said, many of you are experiencing the reemergence from under the surface of trauma of various kinds from earlier in this life and your soul's other lives. As you choose to heal and release these traumas, you are participating in healing the planet. The channel I am speaking through now experienced an epiphany several years ago when we revealed to him that if he wanted to help heal the planet, he must help women heal themselves sexually. He is one of many people, both men and women, who are opening to heal their own issues surrounding sexuality and sexual expression in order to contribute to the collective healing currently underway. Sexual healing happens most of the time outside sexual intimacy and intercourse. Your sexual selves are so intrinsically wired to the rest of you that your whole existence can be thought of as sexual and sexually expressive. There is no arena of life that you experience that does not involve the sort of attraction and revulsion that is central to your sexual selves. You are very concerned to protect your children from the arena of sexuality, and it is time for you to understand that it is only the distorted sorts of sexuality that people are carrying on your planet now that makes this an issue. There is no danger in teaching your children that they and everyone else are sexual beings. When you are naturally connected to yourselves as energetic beings and are not shaming anything in your sexuality, you will no longer perceive a need to protect your children from sexuality, both yours and theirs. The prevalence of sexual violence on the planet reflects the prevalence of the distortions patriarchal culture shapers have ingrained in your cultural institutions and therefore consciousness. Whatever that is natural, that is suppressed, will in time emerge in distorted forms. This truth can lead you to see and understand that the only true healing for the collective's incredibly deep confusion and pain surrounding sexuality is to focus on teaching your children to love themselves and love themselves as sexual beings, and teach them to fully accept everything about themselves so that they are in a position to, in self-loving ways, make the decisions for themselves that are right and appropriate at the right times. You must teach them to trust themselves and to trust their bodies. You must teach them that they are extensions of nature, and you must teach them to honor themselves as such. Recognize that the intense emotional charge that many of you as parents feel surrounding the idea of not separating children from sexuality is multidimensional. One level of this is that you strive to protect your children from what is hurtful, dangerous, and destructive. This is, of course, natural. A second level of this is that you, as humans, have been conditioned to believe that you need to fear your natural sexuality. You have been trained to fear nature itself, as a matter of fact. And you have been trained to fear and defend yourselves against whatever comes to you that does not reflect the prevailing cultural instruction regarding what are appropriate forms and expressions of sexuality. Many of you, therefore, see the world around you as full of sexual dangers, and it is natural with that mindset to fear for the safety of your children. Fitting with this, some of you have been sexually abused yourselves and are aware of the intense imprinting that follows that kind of experience. I invite you to heal yourself so that you can teach your children to honor their sexuality in healthy ways and not fear what might happen because they are being imprinted by parents who have experienced sexual abuse. It is a truth that children absorb energetic and emotional information from their parents, so all parents everywhere during this time of massive shift are invited to focus on healing themselves to ensure that they are teaching their children what they truly find important to teach about life and the world, and not about their own pain and history of abuse or suffering. This healing should take place in all areas of life, not only surrounding sexual abuse. A third level is that humans have been conditioned to see yourselves as victims of external circumstance. This is a complex teaching, but keeping with the focus on sexuality, it is important that you understand that in many ways you have perceived yourselves as children who cannot take care of yourselves. You have been conditioned into believing that you are powerless about the circumstances of your lives, and that bad things can happen to you even if you choose that they do not. In whatever ways you have absorbed this collective message, it is time for you to come out of that conditioning. Again, the truth is that nothing can happen to you without your energetic consent. For as long as there have been humans, you have been looking at yourselves and the world through the lens of dualism. You have come to perceive that as something happens to you, someone or something else has done it to you. You have had many lives along the Earth timeline exploring the idea that you are not in control of your lives and that you are not safe, or that if you are safe, it could all be taken away from you at a moment's notice. You have needed these experiences to teach you about strength while living through the lens of dualism. You have, as souls, asked to learn these lessons. You are now ready to take responsibility for all that has happened to you and for all that you are, and release others of the responsibility for having wronged you. You are also ready to release yourself for the guilt or shame for having created situations that have been difficult, painful, and traumatic for you. Choose to open to learn to see why you have created what you have, and you will be taking a major step towards a self-empowerment that will change your life. Once you begin that shift, it takes time and occurs in small steps, but profound change can take place after the first small change. You will be on your way toward reclaiming your power as an energetic being, a wonderfully creative and powerful portion of the divine. Some of you do not identify as victims of the choices of others, but as victims of your own, and I would like to speak about this now. This dynamic of self-judgment within yourself is a reflection of the suppressed and distorted expression of sexuality on your planet in the same way that rape and molestation are. As an individual, you are coming to learn about the right nature of sexual experience and expression. Many of you feel that you have raped yourselves, in fact. For reasons that have to do with your soul's journey and your particular path to unfold in your remembrance of yourself as divine beings, some of you do not need the violence others might bring to trigger you into trauma. Some of you are experiencing trauma as a result of your own choices. If you are experiencing this, choose to see why you would have created the scenarios you have created that have been difficult for you. You are exploring the same themes as those who feel sexually victimized by others, or those who commit sexual violence. Trust, intimacy, opening fully to another, and so on. You are learning the same themes in your quest to learn about what it is to live here and manage your power as a divine being. And I'm here to tell you that your power rests in your choices. The only route to healing self-judgment is in choosing to forgive yourself for all that you may or may not have done that has contributed to your pain and wounding. Doing this work to come to a state of self-love will change your life forever. Incest and molestation. As there are many facets to your sexual selves and your sexual expression, and many distortions playing themselves out in your consciousness, there are many avenues to explore here to support you in your healing and releasing process. The next situation I will discuss is incest and molestation, the former being sexual abuse that occurs within families, and the latter being sexual abuse of children. This is another complex topic, and one that is difficult for many of you to think about, even for those who have not experienced it. You expect those in your families to love you, and you are clear that abuse and molestation is quite clearly not love. I invite you to listen to the following with openness and an intention to learn more about the truth of such situations and how it is that you can move beyond the trauma and heal yourselves. These dynamics within families cover a wide range of karmic contracts. Humans do not incarnate within family groups to which there is no deep karmic tie. No very important set of karmic contracts that have been set up to facilitate the growth of all members of that family system. This is a truth that spans your planet and all of your history. If you have been born or adopted into a family, you have karmic ties with all the members of that family, and there are numerous contracts to fulfill for you in that family system. Some of those relationships reflect more involved or more intense karma than other relationships you have in that system, but all are necessary and important to your growth and that of the other members of your family as well. Karmic contracts and the resulting emotional dynamics between family members are often more charged than many karmic contracts you have with people in your lives with whom you have different sorts of relationships. In other words, family connections can be intense. You are offering to bring each other into the world and teach each other how to live lives as humans. And this sets the stage for the family system to be an incubator for the karma of all the children born to that family over many generations. Where there is incest in the family system, it is important to understand the specific karmic dynamics involved. Remember that nothing can happen to you without your energetic consent, that all that happens to you, you have asked for others to participate in teaching and learning with you. Molestation and incest within families is for some of you even more difficult to think about than rape, because families are supposed to protect their children and shield them from harm. This is not to say that an individual has asked for abuse. It is to say that an individual has, at the soul level, signed up to experience certain themes and has asked certain other souls to assist in learning about those certain themes, those particular parts of life. There are always many reasons why incest and molestation take place, many kinds of contracts and requests at the soul level. But there is a core request that is in place. The person committing the abuse also has a request in the form of a contract that the person who experiences the abuse has agreed to facilitate for him or her. There is a particular sort of case that is important to explore here. It is possible for individuals to become confused about the contracts they have in place, or to become distracted from the particulars of the situation at hand in a given life. For example, two people could have a soul contract that over the course of many lives involves different kinds of love relationships in which they are lovers, partners, spouses, or mates. It is true that in order to learn about love, we function in all different relationship dynamics together. Imagine that one partner in a couple is torn from the other in one life. In another place on the Earth timeline, they incarnate as parent and child. The strong desire and the feelings about for example, an unconsummated relationship, could interfere with the intentions the parent has towards his or her child in that particular life. In this case, there could be, for one person, a blurring of lines in that right relationship for the time in which they find themselves. Doesn't seem to provide for the sort of emotional or energetic connection that has been longed for in other lives. This can lead to inappropriate and abusive behavior from a parent or a child. It is also true that the suppression of natural sexual instincts, desires, and urges leads in many, many instances to distorted sexual behavior and expression. So many of you are confused about the right way to be your sexual selves, fighting tooth and nail to figure out how to love yourselves for being just the way that you naturally are while living in a social construct that at every turn tells you that what is natural is wrong. Difficult experiences in the world can lead one to take his or her frustration out on those at home, including children, who very often do not represent the same level of threat in response that was met in the outside world. None of this is to say that the individual is not responsible for his or her behavior, but to point out that there are many factors in play in such situations that need to be understood in order to truly grasp why such dynamics take place. In the last few decades, on your planet, you have seen a particular generation born with a deep soul-level need to heal many issues surrounding sexuality, including how to be empowered as a sexual being. Footnote: Tom Jacobs. Those born between the years 1984 and 1995 have the planet Pluto in their birth charts in the sign of Scorpio, the sign of learning about power through intense interactions with others. End of footnote. While this is a key path of learning for all humans, this particular generation has been at the soul level, as Seth would say, majoring in learning about themselves through intense experience and deep revelation to and deep bonding with others, including sexuality. It will therefore have seemed to you that the rates of sexual abuse have been escalating quite a lot over the last few decades. While it is true for a number of individuals in that generation that one of the ways they learn about their soul journeys may include abuse of various kinds, including sexual abuse, it is also true that as the acceleration I have spoke of elsewhere here increases, the lines between dimensions get confused and various sorts of relationships that include contracts surrounding sexuality might get themselves played out in inappropriate relationships between adults and children, whether related to each other by blood or not. Additionally, as individuals play out the distortions present in your collective consciousness surrounding sexuality and sexual expression, many people act out the distortions within their families. The depth of karmic contracts within families over many lives is significant. You seek to learn through relating to each other in family systems again and again. Given the nature of karma and the learning you engage in over long periods of time, over many lifetimes, there are unresolved issues that each of you carries into each life. Being surrounded by the same individuals in many lives can lead you to put a great emphasis on what family members do and do not do for you. This is to say that one individual can come into a life with a certain unmet need that has been experienced in other lives as a general life issue. In the life in question, that person can focus all of the unmet need and whether it is met, this time or not, on a particular family member. A man might feel rejected by women in many of his lives, and he might not know how to deal with this. In another life, he might direct the responsibility of accepting him on one of his children, a young person who is loving and perhaps not prone to rejecting him. This is just one of many, many sorts of examples playing themselves out in humans' various lives. The healing process called for when humans have experienced incest is the same as other forms of sexual abuse, yet there is an added layer of dealing with the fact that each and every one of your family relationships was created at the soul level through a contract specifically because of a deep love. Those who have experienced sexual abuse within their families are particularly challenged to learn to love the self in ways that others have not, and to come out of anger and feeling as though a victim and move into a self-loving stance as a divine being, ready and willing to release others from the perception that they have acted upon them. Language. The last thing I wish to explore for you today is how you talk about your bodies and your sexuality. Specifically, I desire to put your attention on the use of bodily terms and processes as insults. I have no opinion about this as being vulgar or inappropriate, but I want you to see how the use of names for your sexual organs have been turned into insults as a way of keeping you from feeling good about your bodies and the natural ways that you are inclined to experience them. One of the points of this practice is to invest in you a deep, negative emotional charge around surrounding the names for sexual parts of your bodies. These are terms that are slang, which is simply a set of words substituting for other words. Yet this set of words being used as insults continues to hold a measure of the social judgments of the natural expression of your inborn sexuality. And it is for this reason that I want you to become aware of their effect. If you do not use these words as insults because you sense the violence ingrained in the intended use, I invite you to let go of all the emotional charge you feel about this and to understand and accept that people using them are not yet aware of the power of these words used in those contexts. If you are someone who uses these words, cunt, dick, pussy, cock, and others, as insults, I invite you to look with open eyes at what using these words makes you feel. I ask you to become aware of the energetic impact that using these words as insults makes upon your energetic field, and understand that you, in using these words as insults, perpetuate the negativity surrounding your natural sense of sexuality that the prevailing cultures on earth need you to perpetuate in order that they can continue to survive by keeping you from loving your bodies and what they are naturally inclined to be and do. Moving ahead. How will you proceed? Will you allow your history as a sexual being to determine your future as a sexual being? Will you take me up on this invitation to go through your history and rewrite it? Change your mind about why what has happened to you has happened. Will you forgive yourself and others for all you and they may have done that has affected self and other in destructive or hurtful ways? Are you ready to make peace with your true nature as a sexual being, making room for all parts of you while healing the emotional and energetic debris from the past? It is time that you learn to forgive yourself for your choices and to forgive others for participating with you in learning your lessons. No one has done anything wrong. Each and every one of you is learning to love yourself and others more, And all of you seek to honor self and the other more and in deeper and better ways as divine beings. Thank you.